I'm Leonard Riggs, and this is From My Head to Your Ears. And today I'm going to talk about, for lack of a better term, celebrity worship. I don't know what exactly makes stars our favorites. There's a lot of factors, I guess, that come into place. And for that matter, anything you're interested in, not just stars, ball teams, TV shows, whatever. A lot of people can like a ball team, but can't understand why someone can like a singer. And I find that interesting and really not fair. And that's the subject I want to talk about today. We all have something that we're geeks about. And I'm going to talk about that after a quick break here. From an early age, I was the biggest fan of scary movies, even though they scared the living daylights out of me. I love scary movies, and I grew up on a show called Dark Shadows back in the late 60s, and it was on in the afternoons, and I remember loving it, being scared by it. Barnabas Collins, played by actor Jonathan Frid. And early on, I really liked monster movies, and I would beg to stay up with my sisters and watch Dracula, the Christopher Lee Draculas, and oftentimes I'd fall asleep and wake up scared to death, but then I would just do it again the next week. So I really liked monster movies at an early age. And then there was a show called Kolchak the Night Stalker. There were 2 TV movies that aired from the early 70s. And it finally became a TV series in 1974, and it just aired for 1 season. But to this day, I love that show. And Darren McGavin starred, and he was absolutely just great in that role. His narration at the beginning of the episodes and during the episodes really just make the show work. And early on, I liked monster movies. And then I discovered Star Trek. And that's when I was 10, when we got cable television. That's not great English. Well, anyway, I was 10, and in 1976, I remember this date really well, May of 1976, just before summer vacation. And they had a science fiction Saturday, which they showed Space 1999, a British science fiction show, and then Star Trek. Maybe it was the opposite way around. I can't fully remember that, but I really fell in love with Star Trek, and my dad had been a Star Trek fan when it was on, and I vaguely remember watching Star Trek on NBC when it was actually first airing. And mind you, I had to have been 2 years old, but I still remember seeing a scene from Star Trek. But anyway, my dad was all for that because he really liked Star Trek. Also, he liked monster movies. So when I was really young, I really was the sci-fi geek, and I love that. But always in the background was music. I grew up with sisters, so I had music kind of in the house, and my dad loved Bing Crosby and was a huge fan of Bing Crosby and Elvis. And my sister Lori loved like Aretha Franklin and the Supremes, and she had this little blue and white record player that would skip when we would walk in the bedroom, and we used to make it skip. So I really liked soul music early on. So by the time I was nearing my teen years, a movie called Grease came out. Now, mind you, Dee Dee Khan was in it. Dee Dee Khan was this cute little actress with a squeaky voice, and she's Frenchy in Grease, and I had a really bad crush on her. I thought she was the cutest thing. And I knew who Olivia Newton-John was, and I certainly knew who John Travolta was because he was a sweat hog. But Olivia Newton-John was just a radio singer to me. Didn't know much about her. Didn't even know she was Australian. I was shocked to find out she was not from the United States because I thought she was a country singer. I thought of her as a country singer. But anyway, the commercials for Grease came out. Now, mind you, I grew up in a Pentecostal house, so we weren't really allowed to go to movies because the Pentecostal religion doesn't believe in going to the movies. So, my mom was a strict Pentecostal lady, but she wasn't like, she didn't make us do everything. We had a television, for instance, and we did watch shows because my dad, although he was a believer in God, he didn't really believe in a denomination, but he was very much a Christian. But my mom was very strict Pentecostal, so she kind of gave in to Dad, and we had a television, and I got to watch my monster movies and stuff. But anyway, the commercial for Grease came out, and I wanted to see it. I liked the song, You're the One That I Want, which came out before the movie, and my hormones weren't quite popping then. But so the interest in music wasn't quite there yet, because I think teen hormones and music go hand in hand. But I really wanted to see the movie Grease. And about that time, Star Trek the Motion Picture was announced. So from the late 70s, it was all about Star Trek the Motion Picture, and which I got to see in 1979. And also in 1979, I got to see the movie Grease on a channel called Home Theater Network, which we accidentally received on our cable system. Cable wasn't aware that this pay channel was being shown free, but we got to watch it anyway. So I got to see a lot of good movies that year. Superman, the movie, Foul Play with Goldie Hawn and Chevy Chase, and Grease. And I fell in love with Grease. Loved the movie. Wasn't necessarily a fan of Olivia Newton-John. But I loved the movie. And that Christmas of 79, my sisters bought me the Grease soundtrack. And I was just in hog heaven. Loved it. Played the tape to death. And it started my teen years, because I turned 13 in December of 79. And at that point, my musical tastes, like I said, were influenced by my sisters. And I really didn't have a favorite at that point, but I really loved Grease. And I particularly loved Olivia Newton-John's songs. Not particularly Olivia Newton-John. But that all changed in 1980 when Xanadu came out and the song Magic. Magic hit in the summer of my 13th year, and Olivia was on a show called Hot Hero Sandwich, I believe, around that time. Either I saw it firsthand or I saw it in a repeat. But that woman was gorgeous. I mean, at that point, she was every bit a movie star, and she had the nicest smile, the prettiest eyes, and she had this luxurious blonde hair. She was so gorgeous. And Magic was just the right song for her at the right time, and it went number one in 1980. Of course, the movie Xanadu was not a big hit, but I saw it and I loved it. And I still love it to this day, even though it's one of the most infamous flops in movie history, coming off a huge musical like Grease and going to Xanadu. But the soundtrack was mega. It was a big smash. The ELO songs, along with Olivia Newton-John, there was like 5 hits off that album, and this album went double platinum, triple platinum, I don't even know. It was a huge seller, and it was just before Olivia got physical. But I became the biggest Olivia Newton-John fan at that point, and my sister bought me the physical album, which was another cultural pop history moment in pop history. pop culture, excuse me. Uh, but I fell in love with that album, and then I really was like, I need to buy her old albums. As I realized, I really enjoyed her singing, not just Grease, not just Xanadu. So I started saving my allowance money, and at that point, since Olivia was so hot, all her back catalog was available. So I bought all her albums, and I had a friend named Craig Edwards who also had this same crush I did, and we were kind of having a competition about the albums. I think I won that one, but he got to see her in concert in the fall of '82, and I didn't in St. Louis. But there's a story behind that. My nephew broke my stereo, and it was either go see Olivia or get a new stereo, so I thought I can't do without music, so I figured Olivia would be around again, and I could see her some other time. Well, back in the 2000s, I got to see her so many years later, but I did get to see her. But anyway, I had become such an Olivia Newton-John fan that I wanted to learn everything about her, and I got the opportunity to dig into our media library at the high school because we had to come up with a subject for our senior thesis, and we had to write out I don't know how many pages it was, 12 pages, 10 pages, 20 pages, I don't remember, but we had to do an in-depth research paper. So I chose Olivia Newton-John, and I got to go through magazine clips and books, and I learned so much about her. I found out her grandfather was a Nobel Prize winner for physics, and all this stuff, and I got to collect all these articles, and I made it an A- on my thesis. So Olivia Newton-John helped me pass high school. That was a big chunk of my English grade. I got an A-. Only reason I got an A- was a couple of grammatical errors. But through the years, Olivia kind of slowed down, and I kept thinking, I had all the albums that she had, but I kept thinking there's more. So I just kept thinking there's got to be more stuff that she's done that I don't have. Well, I discovered into the 1990s, by that point I was a grown-up and I was working, I found a magazine called Goldmine, and it had import albums, and come to find out, she had recorded some stuff overseas that didn't get to the United States. An album called Long Live Love, for instance, that was pretty much the album If You Love Me, Let Me Know, which featured her big hit, I Honestly Love You. But in the European countries, they didn't market her as a country singer, they marketed her as a pop singer. And there was a thing called Eurovision, and she had participated and came in fourth. ABBA won that year in 1974. But I found out that she had recorded a bunch of songs for that. And actually, I was under the impression that Let Me Be There was her first U.S. album, and in fact was If Not For You, which, by the way, has been re-released and is available in stores, Amazon, and Walmart.com. Her first album with a bunch of extras. But I found out so much about Olivia that she'd made a movie before Grease that flopped. She was in a group called Tomorrow. And I could go on and on. All these fascinating things. She just was a really fascinating woman. And she was all set for a comeback in 92 and ended up being diagnosed with breast cancer, and everything just came to a halt. And that was really awful. My sister had breast cancer, my aunt, my cousins. I mean, kind of a theme that ran through my family. And now Olivia Newton-John had breast cancer. So I knew it wasn't necessarily a death sentence, and I prayed that she would get great help since she was a celebrity and she had the money to get the help she needed. And she did beat it and became an advocate for breast cancer. And Olivia evolved into, hit my mic, into a passionate person about breast cancer research and early detection. And as I grew older and she remained drop dead gorgeous, I became to really respect her as a human being. and she cared about animals a great deal, as do I. And she was an advocate for kinder treatments for cancer, and all was good. She started touring. I got to see her twice, once in St. Louis, once in Columbia, Missouri. I didn't ever get to meet her, which is regretful, but she ended up doing a Vegas show in the mid 2010s and started having some back pain, and found out her cancer had metastasized into her back. And usually breast cancer, when it returns with a vengeance, and it most certainly did. But she continued to crusade. Her husband, she married John Easterling, who was a botanist, and it was almost fated that they joined together because he helped to make her life more comfortable with cannabis oils and cannabis, and she was a big advocate for cannabis use and medical use, and fought in Australia, and she opened a cancer center, or fought to do that. She raised a lot of funds to do that, walked the Great Wall of China. She did a lot of things, and I had nothing but great respect for her. I think she became a really great human being, and that just made me love her even more and admire her. But anyway, the news came that she passed away on August 8th, 2022, not August 22nd. And I was at work, and the news dinged on my phone, and I looked down and I saw the headline that she had passed away. And I was at work, and I thought, nobody's going to understand me being upset over a celebrity dying. And I started receiving messages from friends immediately who told me they were sorry because they know how much I cared for her. And it really touched me at that point. But there were some people that just didn't understand why I could worship a celebrity. And I was just like, I knew that was going to be the case because I see it all the time. Why do people get so upset when a celebrity dies? But I find the same people don't find it a problem to worship a baseball team or wear the t-shirts and go to the games and cheer on the teams, and people who follow politicians blindlessly. Is that even a word? Blindlessly. Maybe I created a word. But those same people think they're being such realists, but they don't realize what I was saying in my intro is we're all geeks about something. And I have more compassion for people when their favorite celebrity dies, because I know how much a singer, an actor, an athlete, a politician, I know how much they can mean to you when you admire somebody so much. And people need to think about stuff before they make stupid comments or cold comments, because that particular summer I lost, and it was a loss for me. Nichelle Nichols, Lieutenant Uhura from Star Trek, passed away a week before Olivia, and that was horrible because I was a big fan of her as well. She was another really fascinating woman. It was hard enough when Leonard Nimoy died, but you have to have compassion on people. You have to come to a point of understanding and don't be so critical. There's nothing wrong with admiring people, and also loving music or musicians or singers or whatever. Music is the one thing we can do that doesn't make you gain weight. It doesn't cause cancer. It is there to just enrich your life and make things better. I know Olivia Newton-John got me through some tough times whenever I would put my headphones on and I would be all stressed out, and she would make me relax. I used to put my headphones on and look out my window at the stars and listen to Olivia sing and dream about whatever. And she just was very special to me. So anyway, I think I've talked enough for this segment. I'm going to take a little break, and I will be back with some final thoughts. Well, I think I've taken up enough of your time. In closing, I'd like to say, if there's something you love in this life, love it without guilt and enjoy everything you can enjoy out of it. There's nothing wrong with loving a musician or a ball team or whatever, what have you. Enjoy it. It makes life better. It makes you a better person. And it makes life more interesting for you. And it doesn't hurt anything. And don't be judgy. Respect everybody's choices as what they like. And you can tease people all you want, but don't judge. Judging is so 2022. So with that, my cats are trying to knock my door down, and I need to see to them. So I'm coming, Livy. Hold your horses. Until next time, I'm Leonard Briggs Jr., and thank you to listening to my podcast, From My Head to Your Ears. I'll be back soon with another great podcast. Thank you.